This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. The holidays are over, the decorations are down, and suddenly everything feels a little empty. It's normal to feel the winter blues after the holiday excitement. January, February, and March are by far my least favorite months of the year. It's cold and dark, and I have to get some extra vitamin D on board. I also need to keep my regular scheduled appointments with my therapist. So if you're feeling that post-holiday funk, I definitely suggest you checking out BetterHelp because maybe it's time to talk. You might also be one of those people like me who makes New Year's resolutions and you get super motivated. So maybe you need someone behind you to hold you accountable and come up with a plan to meet your goals. BetterHelp is super convenient, totally online. You have a therapist right at your fingertips whenever you need them. So head over to betterhelp.com/wifeofcrime1 to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/wifeofcrime1 for 10% off your first month.
So Russ, this week I'm changing it up and we are talking about an unsolved missing persons case that has fascinated me for the last few years. This case proves that paradise is not always what it seems and that you always need to trust your first instincts. This is the case of Amy Lynn Bradley.
What's up, everyone? This is Wife of Crime again, a weekly podcast where Jess tells me about some crimes, and I listen, whether I want to or not.
And we pretend that we're experts and know what we're talking about, but we really don't know
I'm a
anything.
profiler.
Okay. So this week, I'm telling you not a murder story. We're getting off of the whole serial killer thing, and we're going to talk about a disappearance. And this case is something that has fascinated me for a long time. I first heard about it 2 years ago from the podcast Case File, which is a really good podcast. I highly recommend it. It's not like two people bantering back and forth like us. It's more of storytelling. It's one guy and he tells the story of different true crime stories and stuff. But he did a really good job. It was super detailed, this episode. And I remember I was driving to Maryland and I heard this and I was just fascinated and like I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So I really want to tell everybody about this one and tell you about this one because some of the stuff in this story just blew my mind. This is the disappearance of Amy Lynn Bradley, and she went missing on a cruise ship in the Caribbean in 1998.
It's a long time.
Yeah, so she's been missing a long time. I wanted to give you some fun facts.
Okay.
So, fun fact. Since the year, this is not a fun fact, actually. This is a sad, terrible fact.
How about we call this interesting facts?
Interesting fact. Interesting facts. Since the year 2000, nearly 200 people have gone missing from cruise ships.
Yep, nothing fun about that.
No. Another...
How many cruises are there a year, I wonder? Like, what's the percentage of
Yeah, I don't know.
people? That'd be interesting.
That would be interesting, but still, 200 people have been missing, and they cannot find them, which is nuts to me. In 2018, nearly 350 victims of human trafficking were rescued in the Caribbean, with law enforcement from the Caribbean, Latin America, and America. They rescued 350 sex trafficking victims.
So they like all kidnapped people from other parts of the country?
People from all over the world kidnapped and sold into the sex trade.
Crazy.
And the other thing about cruise ships that I want to tell you to keep in mind when I tell you this story is that when it comes to a cruise ship, when you get on, even if you get on a cruise ship in Florida, in America, and you travel down to the Caribbean, you're in international waters.
Yeah, the laws are different.
the laws, it's like lawless because you're in international waters. So you're not governed by the country that you came from or that you live in. You're governed by either the country that the ship is registered in, or you're governed by the island that you get to.
That's pretty crazy.
So don't think that when you get on a cruise ship in Miami that if something happens to you that you're protected, because you're not protected by the U.S. government.
So don't take a cruise ship to one of these little countries expecting help.
Don't take cruises. Like, that's honestly what I've learned from this story. And I heard this story a year after I took a cruise, and I was so freaked out.
You're lucky you made it back.
Don't take cruises. That's really the moral of the story. Cruises are no fun.
Within a year, she'll be like, hey, so me and my mom are planning a cruise.
I know. Cruises are really fun, but this stuff really scares me. Okay, here we go. Let's get into the story. So, Amy Lynn Bradley was born May 12th, 1974. She was an athletic girl. She was on the swim team, on the basketball team. She got a full basketball scholarship to college.
Oh, wow.
So she was athletic, and she was a lifeguard.
So she was fit, too, because I always say stay fit.
Yep, she was fit. She was a good swimmer, and she was a lifeguard. So she was good, right? She had a very tight-knit family. Her dad, Ron, her mom, Iva, and her brother, Brad. Her and Brad were really close. Amy was 23 at the time of her disappearance. And so a couple months before they went on this cruise, she just got her own apartment. She purchased an English bulldog from a breeder. And she was planning...
I love bulldogs.
Yeah, we do love bulldogs. She was planning to pick up the bulldog the Saturday after they returned from the cruise. So she had these plans. She had this apartment. She had this life. You know, she was living a great life. There was no indication that she would just up and leave her life. So at the time of her disappearance, she was 5'7", so my height, and she weighed about 120 pounds, so a little bit lighter than me.
Okay.
But pretty much my size. Her dad got these cruise tickets from his company. His company was like, oh, we're going to take a company cruise, bring your family. He got 4 tickets, and he called his son and daughter, and, you know, they had just moved out of the house and stuff, so he was like, let's just have this nice family vacation since the kids are leaving the house for good. Let's have a nice family vacation. So at first, this is kind of crazy. Amy was really apprehensive about going on the cruise.
Trust your instincts at all times.
She didn't want to go. And for a little while, she was very apprehensive about it. She told her family she was nervous about it. She didn't think that she wanted to go. But then after, you know, talking and all that, they were like, okay, let's just have this last family trip.
I wonder what her reasons were for not wanting to go.
She said that she was nervous about being out in this open waters, you know, because people can be afraid of being out in the ocean. And she was talking more about being afraid of being on the big ship out in the middle of the ocean.
I understand that.
So in the end of the day, though, she decided to go. They flew to Puerto Rico because the cruise was departing from Puerto Rico. They flew to Puerto Rico, and when they saw the large ship and, you know, the 2,000 passengers, and I did go on a cruise a couple years ago, so like when you walk up to the ship, you see how big it is. It's like a casino on the water. It's huge.
You probably think like there's police all over and you feel safe.
Yeah, you see tons of crew members, security. I mean, you don't feel unsafe at all. There's so many people around, and it is kind of exciting.
Okay.
So once she got there, her nervousness turned into excitement, and she was actually really happy that she came. So Ron, Iva, Amy, and Brad were given a junior suite, which has a balcony. It's a queen-size bed and 2 twin beds. They were all sharing one room and a small balcony. But just keep in mind that balconies on cruise ships have these like really high walls, like probably 5 foot high. So it's not easy to just fall.
Probably so no one falls, right?
Yeah, it's really hard to fall overboard from a balcony from a suite.
I've never been on a cruise, by the way, so I'm just learning all this as we go.
Yeah. So it's like really hard to fall off.
They
of
didn't
a
invite
balcony.
me on their cruise last year.
It was an all-girls cruise.
That's
No
what-
guys were invited, and it wasn't last year. It was like 4 years ago.
That's what wives say when they just don't want the husbands around. Oh, girls.
It was my mom and grandma and me and my aunts.
Carrie, I can't believe you didn't invite me. That's her mom.
Shout out to Carrie. She's listening, probably. Okay. So, yeah, they shared a junior suite. So all of them were in the same suite. So they all kind of kept track of each other. They knew where each other was all the time, and they were pretty much together the entire cruise up until Amy went missing.
How long was she on the cruise before she disappeared?
I'm going to tell you right now.
All right.
So they left Puerto Rico and headed for Aruba. The first stop was Aruba. On cruises, just so you know, they have this thing called the captain's dinner. It's like a formal dinner where you get really dressed up, and they have like a 5-course meal, and you're served at this table, and it's like supposed to be really fancy. And
So all the 60-year-old guys put on their polos and their cargo shorts,
yeah,
and they tuck in their polos into their cargo shorts, and they rock out.
Yeah, like everyone loves it. They get dressed up. Everyone thinks it's fun. So they went to the captain's dinner the first night. And at the captain's dinner, they take pictures. There's a photographer on the ship who goes around and takes pictures of
I wonder if he's
everybody.
like casing for like kidnappers, like taking pictures, like, hey, I got a good one.
Well, the photographer seemed pretty innocent, but he ended up taking pictures of Brad and Amy and, you know, all the people at the table. And just keep that in mind. There were pictures taken at that captain's dinner.
Okay.
So then Ron and the family met up with all of Ron's coworkers. They hung out. They went to a couple of the bars, and everything just seemed so normal. One weird thing that did happen, and it kind of made Amy's mom a little weirded out, was 2 of the waiters at the captain's dinner began kind of flirting with Amy in front of people. And her mom felt uncomfortable with it, but she didn't make a big thing out of it.
I think that's normal. I think a lot of young guys and girls go on cruises and expecting to party and meet guys and girls, and
Well, I'm sure-
they're in a whole nother mind state. Even the people working there, in their head, they're semi on vacation.
I don't know. They were, yeah. I mean, I'm sure they're used to seeing people on vacation, and the crew is like, you know, the crew is encouraged to interact with the guests and get to know you and stuff like that. But it did weird her mom out. After the dinner, on one of the nights, one of the waiters came up to her mom and asked for Amy by name, stating that when they docked, the crew members wanted to take Amy to this bar called Carlos and Charlie's.
That's why I don't make new friends.
And no, you don't make new friends. You're really hard to be friends with.
No, if I don't know you since I was a little kid, like...
There's a few people that you've become friends with over the years, but...
That's true. There's a few
You pretty
of you.
much
You know who you are.
Stick with your old crew.
Yeah.
So the crew members came up to her mom and said, "We want to take Amy to this bar called Carlos and Charlie's." And Carlos and Charlie's is a bar on the island of Aruba that crew members from cruise ships and locals all hang out and party. So later they told Amy about this, and her response was, "I would never go off with any of these crew members. They give me the creeps."
Respect, Amy.
So just
Smart.
This just kind of shows that her whole intention the whole time was to hang out with her family. She didn't want to go off and party. She didn't want to go meet random people. She was doing the right thing.
She wasn't with those thought activities.
No, not at all. She was just trying to spend time with her family. She stayed with her brother, and that's it.
Good for her.
So they docked in Aruba, and they spent the day exploring the island. They rented a Jeep. They did the whole island thing and spent the whole day there. And then they hopped back on the ship and headed for Curacao. Curacao was the next stop, and it's only 40 miles from Aruba, so it's not it would take one night to get there.
Okay.
Now, the weird thing that happened, this is where things start to get weird. they go, when you get your pictures taken at this captain's dinner or any pictures on the ship, there's like a bulletin board that they post, and anyone can walk up and look at all the pictures of all the people on the ship. And then you can pick your picture and say, hey, I want copies of this one, whatever. They display them.
That got to be old things. People have phones now. We don't need your printed picture.
I mean, when I went on the cruise, we bought printed
How
pictures.
old are you?
We bought like a bunch of them.
Who does this? You have a phone, and how many megapixels are in these iPhones? There's like 6 cameras on the
they
back.
Were cute. They have like a little background and a border.
She wastes money on everything.
So they went up to the bulletin board looking at all the pictures, and Amy's pictures were not there.
Was she still there, or was she missing?
She was still there.
Oh.
But her pictures were not there.
Okay.
So the mom went up to the photographer and said, hey, my daughter's pictures are like the only ones missing. The ones with Amy were the only ones missing. And the photographer said, oh, maybe it was a mistake. I'll get, them reprinted. I'll redevelop them, right? So they got them redeveloped. But it's just weird to me that they were missing.
It's a little fishy.
I mean, I'm sure at the time they didn't think anything. They're like, oh, maybe it was a mistake. No big deal. But then after the events that followed, you look back and you're like, the night before she went missing, or a few hours really before she goes missing, her pictures are gone.
Yeah, it's a little fishy.
So around 1 a.m., so they went to this live calypso band concert thing, right? The whole family did. And there were a bunch of locals from Aruba that got on the ship. And Ron and Iva...
They let random people on the ship that aren't...
They were with the calypso band. They were like the entourage with the calypso band.
All right.
So Ron and Iva didn't like this. They felt weird because they were like, they're paying people on here, and you're bringing some random locals.
And their names probably aren't registered and everything.
Nothing. And they're traveling with the band to the next island, so they're staying overnight. It weirded them out, and I don't blame them.
You got to buy your own cruise
I find
ship
that,
if you want to go on a cruise.
I find that really strange.
I'm buying a sailboat next summer.
So around 1 a.m., Ron and Iva decide to go to bed. They're like, we're tired. We're going to go to bed. But Brad and Amy, they want to keep partying. So the two of them make their way from the live music place down to the club. So every cruise ship has a club, and this one was like 24-hour nightclub. So they went down to this nightclub around 1 a.m. They were drinking. They were, mingling with other guests, having a great time. And they met the bass player for the Calypso band. And Brad and Amy were talking to this bass player. His name is Douglas Allister. His nickname is Yellow, right? So they were talking to this guy for a while and dancing, having a good time. And then Brad is like, I'm getting tired. I'm ready to go up around 3 a.m. Mm-hmm. So Brad leaves Amy.
Leaves her?
But she comes right after him. She finishes her drink. She says bye to Yellow. You see this on the camera. She says bye, and then she goes up and she comes into the room right after Brad. So nothing too fishy. So Brad and Amy chilled on the balcony for a bit, and then Brad finally went to sleep. Around 5:15 a.m., Ron, her dad, wakes up, pulls his head up and looks at the balcony, and he sees her legs on the chair, like she's sleeping out on the balcony.
Okay.
Right? So he's like, we're getting up in 45 minutes because they're going to get up at 6 a.m. because cruise ships dock really early in the morning, so you have a full day on the island. So he was like, well, we'll get up in 45 minutes. I'm just going to let her sleep out there. She's out there sleeping. It's no big deal. So he goes back to sleep. He wakes up at 6 a.m. He looks out there. She's not on the balcony anymore. She and her cigarettes and her lighter are gone, but her shoes are still in the room. So
she went to smoke cigarettes.
So he was like, maybe she went up to see the sunrise on the, the top deck, to see the sunrise and see the view of the island, smoke some cigarettes. She went with no shoes. So
Cigarette strike again. She's about to go missing. Cigarettes are the cause of death.
Let's not focus on the cigarettes here. So, but the point is that she didn't even take her shoes with her because she probably just wanted to see the sunrise, right?
Yeah.
So when he at first he wasn't weirded out. He was like, I'll go look for her. I'll go up on the top deck and see if she's up there, So he makes his way up there, doesn't see her. So then he starts getting a little, like, in his mind, like, he starts getting a little freaked out. Because he can't find her, and it's just not like her to just leave the family. They're very close-knit. So Ron figured that maybe she went to the upper deck. He looked around, couldn't find her, and after searching for about an hour, he started to panic. He went back to the room, and he told his wife, I can't find Amy. She was just here, and now I can't find her anywhere, and she didn't take her shoes with her, so, like, I don't know where she could be.
So she didn't plan on being gone long if you don't have shoes.
Exactly. That was his thought. Like, she would go up for 10 minutes and then come back to the room, and it's been an hour now. So they continue to search for her, and then after about 2 hours, they went to the captain and asked the captain, can you help us search? Can you tell some crew members? Can we make an announcement? Something like that. The captain was totally against it. He was like, no, she's 23 years old. She's an adult. Like, I'm not going to cause mass hysteria on my ship of 2,000 people by making an announcement of a missing girl. She's only been gone for 2 hours. She's an adult. Like,
she could have been hooking up with Yellow.
Yeah, like she could have been in somebody else's cabin doing the hanky-panky. Like, he didn't know. He doesn't know her.
It hanky-panky. How old are you?
I don't know.
Where'd you get that, Grandma?
Hanky-panky. Okay. So, where am I? They didn't want to start the search because he was like, she's an adult, let her live. She's probably just doing some hanky-panky somewhere. And he didn't want to freak everybody on the ship out. The family stays on the ship. Everyone, disembarks, goes off onto the island, but the family stays on the ship because now it's been...
You can't leave. You got to look for her. But then also someone might be taking her off the ship, but you're not necessarily thinking that.
Exactly. So it's been 3 or 4 hours now, which is not like her at all. So they're really worried. They're searching all over the ship, and ships are huge. I mean, they're big. This is the Royal Caribbean. It's called Rhapsody of the Sea. I looked up pictures of it. It's one of those gigantic ones. It's like a mini city. So you have a lot of space to cover when you're searching. Now, while they were searching, Yellow, the bass player, comes up to Brad, and he says, sorry to hear about your sister. Brad found this really odd because the only people who knew Amy was missing was the captain and like a select few crew members.
That word spreads fast, though. If a few crew members know, like, it sounds like a restaurant. You ever do, like, I worked in restaurants, and if one person knows something in a restaurant, everyone knows.
I know, but he's just a bass player of a band. He's not, like, part of the crew. So to me, anyway, they had a weird feeling about him from the beginning.
All right.
And this just added to Brad's weird feeling.
Keep your kids away from them musicians.
So after about half the day, now it's, halfway through the day, the captain assures the family, look, go on the island, look for her on the island. We'll search for her here. The crew and, I'll tell the
just
whole
like a
crew.
distraction?
Who knows? So the captain assures the family, we'll search the ship while you're off on the island. So the family decides, okay, we've already looked everywhere we can. So we're going to go onto the island and see if we can find her there.
This sounds like a case for Liam Neeson.
It does.
Taken, this sounds like an episode of Taken. Like, he needs to go around chopping necks. Should have walked right up to the, who's the boss of the boat? What's the captain? Chopped him in the neck. Where's my daughter?
Well, the story gets even more twisty. So you have to understand something. When you get off of a cruise ship onto an island, every time you get off, you have to go through customs. This isn't
that doesn't sound like fun.
No, it's a very long line that you have to wait on, and you have to be checked through to get off of the ship. So you have to be, each individual person has to be checked off the ship and on the ship. So if she got off the ship on her own, she would have been logged. There would have been a log of it.
Oh, shit, so she's still on the boat.
So the question is she still on the ship? Or did someone smuggle her off, put her in a laundry bag? Did a crew member get her through a back door? Something like that.
I mean, these countries, you don't know what kind of like connections they have. They could know the check in and out people of the boat and just be like, hey, like, we're leaving.
Exactly. It's a lot of fishy stuff.
You guys already know because we have been talking about them for a while now. Via Hemp is by far one of our favorite sponsors we've ever had, okay? We use their products all the time. Maybe you're a little like me. You're a little anxious. You have a hard time settling down. You're kind of wound up a lot. If that's you, Via Hemp products are for you. Check out their website. You will find something that speaks to you. Maybe you're like Russ. You have a hard time sleeping because you have bad nerve pain or chronic pain. Then Via Hemp is for you because their gummies will help you get some quality sleep. Maybe you're looking to have a really good time. Maybe you just really like edibles. You want to laugh. You want to get the munchies. You want to watch a movie and have a really strong belly laugh. Then Via Hemp products are for you, okay? They're literally for everybody. So head over to viahemp.com, promo code wifeofcrime1 to get 15% off your first order. That's VIIAHEMP.com, wifeofcrime1 for 15% off your first order. Last year, Save More Money was the most popular New Year's resolution in America. Clearly, a lot of us feel like our money is slipping through our fingers. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm not the best saver, and I don't know much about investing until I started saving and investing with Acorns. Turns out you don't have to be an expert at all because Acorns will recommend a diversified portfolio that fits you and your money goals. And I always thought that when people say, ooh, I invest in stocks, that they had a ton of money or something. Well, you don't need to be rich. Acorns lets you invest with the spare money you've got right now. You can literally start with $5. And you know you guys are spending that at Starbucks on these fancy lattes. So skip the coffee and invest with Acorns. You don't even need a ton of time. Like you can just sign up and start investing within 5 minutes. Head over to acorns.com/wifeofcrime or download the Acorns app to start saving and investing for your future today. That's acorns.com/wifeofcrime.
So the family gets off. They go on the island of Curacao and they start looking on the island. And as soon as they get off the ship, they contact the FBI. The FBI says, we can be there in 24 hours because, you know, they have to fly down to Curacao. It's going to take some time. They can't just like appear. So, But the FBI says, we'll be there in 24 hours. So they have to decide, do we stay on this island and wait for the FBI or do we get back on the ship?
That's terrible.
Because the ship is going to the next island, the Virgin Islands. They're going to like St. Thomas or something next. So they have to decide, do we stay on this island or do we get back on the ship and go to St. Thomas?
I think, in my opinion, the brother or someone should stay on the ship and one should go to the land.
Well, they decided to all stay on the island and wait for the FBI, which was a really tough decision for them.
There's no right decision. They're just different.
Well, the FBI arrives in Curacao the next morning, which is good. They came pretty quick. They searched the island, tried to find some answers, didn't get any answers. So the FBI flies the family to St. Thomas to get back on the ship. And the FBI gets on the ship with them. And now they're doing like a real thorough search. When they get back, they ask the captain, you know, where did you search on the ship? And the captain said, well, we looked in all the public restrooms. We looked in all the public places. So they didn't do a thorough check. They didn't look in cabins. They didn't look anywhere that wouldn't be more of just public areas. So it wasn't a thorough search that they did. So the FBI decides to conduct their own search. And now this is getting out to the whole ship. Now everybody on the ship knows a girl is missing, and she's been missing for a full over 24 hours at this point. So they decide to go in cabin by cabin, each room, looking. They find nothing. But during this time, since the whole ship becomes aware, people are starting to talk. 2 college-age girls run up to the parents, Ron and Iva, and they say, we saw Amy with the bass player of the band.
Yellow?
Yeah.
Don't trust no one with a name that they don't even have a real name.
Well, his name's Douglas Allister, but his nickname is Yellow.
Oh. What if he changes color of his name every cruise? I don't know. Like, nah, that wasn't me. That was Blue.
Well, but it's just random because these girls don't know Amy. These girls don't know the bass player. But they were intent to tell the parents, I saw Amy with the bass player of the band.
But she did stay behind that day to hang out.
She did. So, it could have been that little 5 minutes of her finishing her drink and then following her brother up to the room while she was finishing talking to him. That could have been the time that they saw her. Who knows if that... But it's just so another thing that puts it in the parents' mind that he's fishy. So they notified the FBI that they're really leery about this guy, and they want the FBI to question him. So the FBI questions him, and they give him a polygraph on the cruise ship.
Which means nothing.
And he passes it, but when he comes out of the room, the whole family's sitting outside the room. When he comes out of the room, he smiles and gives 2 thumbs up at her dad, right? And this makes her dad livid. Like, he wants to strangle him. Because in his mind, it's like, even if you passed it, why are you going to walk out of here and smile at us? Like, you're just...
He's yellow.
Either you're just... You did something wrong and you're, like, happy you're getting away with it, or you just have really poor taste.
It's just weird.
To do something like that. So the dad was pissed. So they started looking at footage of the security cameras. They see her with Brad and her with the guy in the club. Everything checked out. They see her walk back to the room. They see her check back into the room right after Brad did, because you have a card that you scan. So they track the cards of when you scan to get back in your room. And everything checked out. So they go all the way home. The cruise is over now, right? They're in St. Thomas. The cruise is over.
So they just go, if someone goes missing, they just go on with the cruise like that person isn't dead or whatever? What
are they going to do? They have 2,000 people on this ship. What are they going to do?
I don't know.
Stop the ship and fly everybody home? No, they handle the situation while they're finishing the cruise. So the cruise ends in St. Thomas, and they, take it back to Puerto Rico, and then the family just has to go home and leave, not knowing what happened with their daughter, where she is. I mean, how horrible. Can you imagine?
Yeah, we're just going to go home without her? That's
crazy.
But then what are your choices? What do you do?
Exactly. What do you do? So when they get back to America, the family just gets, they go gung-ho. They make a network of people. They come up with reward money. They work with the FBI. They print flyers. And within a week or two, Brad and Ron, her dad and her brother, fly back to Curacao with all these flyers, with reward money. They fly back down to the islands because they want to search the island of Curacao. They really feel like Curacao, because she went missing. The last time she was seen was at 5:15 a.m. They docked in Curacao at 6 a.m. and she was never seen. So they really feel like Curacao is where she is.
Makes sense.
So they get on the island, and they're running around with these flyers, talking to different locals. And a taxi cab driver says he saw her. He sees her picture, and he says, a woman ran up to my car and asked me a few days ago, and asked me where a payphone was. Where's the nearest telephone or payphone? And he said, I know this is her because I can't get her green eyes out of my mind. She has bright green eyes. And he's like, I know these are her eyes. And she came up to me. She seemed distraught. And as soon as I told her where the telephone was, I pointed her in the direction of the telephone. She ran that way, and I haven't seen her since. But I did see her. So this confirms that she is on the island of Curacao. While they're looking, passing out flyers, Brad says that they were walking down the street, and they hear... a van rolls by, and he swears he hears a woman call out his name. So the dad and her brother jump in a car and follow the van. They get the van to pull over. They get the guy to open up his van, and no one's in there. So Brad's like, did I just hear what I wanted to hear? Or did I hear it was coming from somewhere else and then we followed this van? Like, is it wishful thinking?
Yeah.
You know, because they're so distraught. So the trip ended up being unsuccessful, and they go back to America, and they don't hear anything. The FBI ends up calling them a little while later and says that they found remains wash up on the island of Curacao. So they were testing the remains, but it would take a few days. So now they have to sit with this and wait. But it comes back, it wasn't her, okay? So now nothing happens for a little over a year, like 14 months goes by. And they're waiting and looking and searching, and they just have no answers. And then a man named David Carmichael, who does business in Curacao, he was down there, he calls one of the hotlines, and he says that he saw Amy on the beach with two men, and that he was speaking English to somebody. He was speaking English to someone that he was hanging out with, and she must have noticed that he spoke English, and she started walking really fast up towards him and trying to leave these two men behind. She came up to him and she said, "My name is Amy."
Oh, wow.
Right away, as soon as she said, "My name is Amy," the men grabbed her and grabbed her by the arm and pulled her into a nearby bar. So David walks, he at the time, David didn't know, this wasn't on the news yet about, it wasn't national news. So David didn't know who Amy was yet when he spotted her. But he felt it was really weird that these two men were being so aggressive. So he followed her into this bar, and he noticed that she had some tattoos. So she has a tattoo on her ankle, and she has a Tasmanian devil with a basketball tattoo on her shoulder. Very 90s tattoos, right?
Yeah.
So
I feel bad for anyone stuck with those Tasmanian devil tattoos.
I know, there are so many people in the 90s had Tasmanian devil. So he followed her into this bar, and he watched her because he wanted to see what was going on. He felt weird about it and noticed her tattoos. And then eventually her and the two men left. He gets back to America, hears the story about this missing girl, realizes, oh my God, that was the girl I saw.
Wow, so she's alive.
So he calls the hotline and tells the hotline. So now they know, okay, she's alive. It's been 14 months, but she's alive and she's still in Curacao. Okay? So now a couple months go by, and a man named Frank Jones contacts the family, and he says, "I'm ex-Special Forces. I specialize in extracting human trafficking victims in the Caribbean. I saw your story. I want to help you, okay? I've been doing this for years. I'm really experienced, and I think I can help."
Scammer alert.
So, do you know this story?
No, this sounds fishy.
Wow, you have some good instincts,
He sounds
Russell.
like he wants some money. And he's taking advantage of people that are under distress.
You have really good instincts. I don't know how you do that.
Russ the profiler. Told you.
Anyway, so Frank surveils the island. He says that he sees her often. He sends them pictures of her. And
he has pictures, so he's down with the people, though.
Well, he has pictures. So the pictures that he sends of her are not her face, but it's pictures of her from behind walking with two men. The tattoos are there. So he sends these pictures. He sends locations of where he's seen her. He actually has an informant in one of the brothels down there who says that she told her that the lullaby that her mom used to sing to her as a baby.
Oh, so he did know stuff.
Frank tells her mom, "This is the lullaby that she used to sing, that you used to sing to her." And I was like, "Yeah, that's it. This is her."
Wow.
So the family is like, "Yes, this is her." So Frank says, "Listen, I'm going to need more money."
Of course.
Because we're getting close to the time. I have to plan to extract her because these men are armed and dangerous that have her.
He would have got me too.
I know. He was pretty
Because he has pictures
slick.
and he has such evidence. But he's definitely down with them, and he's just getting more money. They're all in this for money.
So he asks for $100,000 more and says, "We're getting really close to the extraction time. I'm just trying to make a plan. I have a whole staff of people. I need to pay them and blah, 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 but we're really close.
So wait, and this also doesn't make sense, because was he doing all this on his own time before, like getting pictures?
No, they paid him before, but he asked them for more money.
All right.
They paid him an initial fee, and then he, sent all this proof, and then he says, okay, I know where she is, we have to make a plan, we're going to get her out of here, let me have $100,000 more, blah, blah, blah. So the family agrees because they're sold. They're like, yeah, this is her, 100%.
Need to contact like the FBI now.
Well, so this is interesting. Ron's company has been super helpful because they feel guilty because they were the ones that gave them the tickets for this cruise.
Oh, yeah.
So his company feels very responsible, and they've been really helpful. They've given money towards the reward money, and they hired their own PI to go down and find her. Because that can't hurt. Like, having another person look for her can't hurt. So they hire their own PI. His name is Tim Buckles. He goes down there, and he sees Frank. And he sees Frank is doing nothing that he says he's doing. Frank is partying up in bars. He's hanging out. He's not doing any type of, making an extraction plan, nothing like that. So they find out, but the family is still convinced that this guy Frank is doing his job. They don't necessarily believe that he's not. Because they're
their only hope.
Yeah,
without that, there's no hope.
Exactly. So Frank says, we're getting her, go to Miami, I'll meet you in Miami with your daughter on this date. So the family flies to Miami, they sit in a hotel for 5 days, and they wait. And they get zero communication, nothing. Altogether, they've paid this man $210,000, and they never hear from him again.
Wow. I wonder if he's alive.
I think he's still alive, yeah, probably scamming other people.
You're a piece of crap, dude.
So the other PI, the one that the company...
Where'd he get the pictures, though? They need to go find his ass and find out where the pictures came from.
I'm going to tell you.
I would have turned to Liam Neeson.
So he had another woman pose for these pictures. He put her tattoos, fake tattoos, on this other woman, on her shoulder and her ankle and her navel, because she had a tattoo around her navel too. Put the fake tattoos on this woman and
Definitely
had
tribal.
her pose. It's irrelevant. Had her pose and send these pictures of this other woman, because there were no pictures of her face.
That's crazy.
I know. How terrible. The lullaby thing, I don't know about that.
Yeah, how do you find that?
I have no idea. But the pictures were completely just fabricated. So Frank got arrested. He was arrested for fraud. He did 5 years.
You don't say.
Yeah, he did 5 years. And it's just terrible because he played to their grief. I mean, it's just disgusting. $210,000.
That's a lot of money.
And they have reward money. There's like $100,000 reward for her and $25,000 for any information.
Wow.
I know. It's so sad. So much time and money was wasted. And it was just really a shame. And the family had such a hard time with it. So now, about a year or two later, a U.S. Navy member was in a brothel. He called the hotline anonymously because, they're not allowed to be in brothels.
Yeah, you're not supposed to be with the hookers.
So he called the hotline anonymously and said that he saw Amy in this brothel, and she said to him, "My name is Amy Bradley. Please help me. I need your help."
I feel like I believe him.
She knows that he's a U.S. service member, and I'm sure he didn't help her at the time because he's covering his own ass.
Damn.
But he did call, so at that time, they knew, okay, our daughter's still alive, but she's in a brothel, probably in forced prostitution.
Yeah.
A couple years later, anonymous photos were sent to the family of a woman escort on an escort site, and it looks eerily like her. And this was like 2002 now, so she went missing in 1998. 2002, these anonymous photos were sent. I can show you the photos. I'll post them. They really do look like her.
You can find them on wifeofcrime.com.
Yeah, I'll put them on the website. they definitely look like her, but some people are not convinced. Some people are like, no, it's just a girl that looks like her, but it's not her. Because she has like heavy makeup on and her hair's done up and stuff.
Do the parents think it's her?
Her mom says 100% this is her.
Then I would think it's her.
Yeah.
The mom
100%.
knows what you look like.
Yeah, mom believes it. So the last sighting of Amy Bradley was in 2005. A woman named Judy Mayer claimed that she saw Amy in a restroom in Barbados, so a different island now, and that she was with two men in this restroom and they were threatening her, saying, you better follow through with this deal. And she was very upset, crying and distraught. After the two men left the restroom, Judy came out of her stall and walked up to Amy and asked if she was okay. And she said, my name is Amy Bradley. I'm from Virginia. And then as soon as she started talking to the lady, saying who she was, the men come back in the restroom and drag her out.
She must have been so scared of them, being that she's not screaming in public.
Well, yeah, I'm sure they threatened to kill her or her family or whatever. So
Just scream, because they're not going to return you anyway. You just got to go for it.
Oh, it's so scary. So then Judy immediately calls the FBI. As soon as she gets out of there, calls the FBI, and they make composite sketches of the woman that she saw, who she thinks is Amy, and the three men. And so that was 2005. Amy has not been seen since. There is a $250,000 reward for her recovery and $25,000 reward for any information leading to the discovery of
That's
Amy
sad.
Bradley. How crazy is that? So it's now 2020 almost. I feel like the poor girl, I'm not hopeful that she's still alive at this point. It's been 15 years since she's been seen.
The chances are against it. I mean, the moral of this story is don't go on cruises, unless maybe you're fat and old. No one's kidnapping them. But don't go on cruises till I'm old and fat. I'm not fat yet.
I mean, the scariest part is that she did everything right. She didn't leave. The only thing she did was maybe go smoke a cigarette on the top balcony when the sun was coming up.
Yeah.
But that's it. Other than that, she was with her family.
Yeah, she didn't want to stay
time.
And do random stuff at bars with the crew.
No. She didn't want to hang out with anybody but her family. So this case has been so fascinating to me for a really long time, because I didn't realize how unsafe cruises actually are, and it scared me to the point where I don't know if I'll ever go on a cruise. I really don't.
Her mom will convince her next year.
I mean, maybe I'm too old now. Nobody's taking me.
I'd still kidnap you.
I'm 34 years old. Nobody wants me. They want these young girls in their 20s. So Natalie Holloway, another girl that disappeared on a cruise, that bar I told you about, Carlos and Charlie's, that's where she disappeared from.
Wow, so they need to get the people that invited her to that bar. They're probably in on it.
I don't know if the captain is in on it. It might run really deep. So this ship...
Sounds like a meat market. They're picking off the people from the cruises because they know the law is a little iffy out there.
I know, so at the time, this cruise ship, Rhapsody of the Sea, was registered to Norway. So it's based off of Norway's laws. America is very strict about
We got
their
listeners in
regulation.
Norway too.
Oh yeah, we do. But their laws, the international water laws and maritime laws are very archaic and not updated. So it was just, the FBI had their hands tied in a lot of ways, and they just couldn't do more than they did, I think, to find her. But I don't know. This story creeps me out, and I just thought it's interesting and people should know. It's something that people really need to understand, especially women. Need to understand.
Be careful and keep people around you if you go on these cruises.
Yeah, a buddy system at all times.
Yes, preferably a guy.
Have a buddy system. I mean, preferably a guy, but at least one other person.
Well, I'm
with
thinking
you.
if you're two young girls, now it's another 2-for-1 deal.
Yeah, that makes sense. But maybe someone would be intimidated because 2 girls is harder to kidnap than 1. So just have somebody with you. Just always check in with the people you're with. Always make sure that everybody knows where you are. Just be smart about it. And that's the moral of this story.
And don't smoke cigarettes.
All right.
And then you don't leave your room.
True. Get a Juul, and you can smoke inside.
Don't get a Juul, then you look like a douche.
No, you don't.
Hey, you do. It looks like you're smoking on a USB. Like, what are you sucking on a USB for?
It does look like a USB. That's so funny.
All right, guys. So check out wifeofcrime.com. Jess posts pictures there about the cases and more information. And Instagram at wifeofcrimepod.
Yes.
And that's it. Catch you next time.
All right. See you next week. Bye.
Peace.